Hi, how are you?
So I'm Kaylyn.
I'm Khairah.
And today I wanted to talk about energy work. So I'm a level 3 Reiki master. I'm not quite certified to be a teacher yet. I've been procrastinating on the classes. But I have Khairah here who's a Reiki master 0.5, where she's not quite at a 1 because I don't know how to teach her. But her energy levels and understanding are evolving, and I just thought we should talk about what energy work feels like for today.
I get a little bit of points.
Yeah, man, you get at least you're on the board. So first I wanted Khairah to talk about her experiences with energy work a little bit, and then I wanted, just because I'm probably going to talk a lot, I wanted to just ramble on about my experiences with what energy feels like.
Okay. So I guess for the longest time, I just really didn't know that I was experiencing energy per se. I just thought I was weird, and that stuff happened. I talked to my grandfather about it, and he's like, yeah, okay. And some stuff I just kept to myself. So one thing I told Kaylyn about that stands out in my mind is that when I was younger and we would be traveling home at night, it almost looked like I could see the rays of the light guiding us and connecting from each post to our car to help us get home. It was really interesting. But then on top of that, I also could look straight into the sun and not mess up my eyes and see the center just automatically. I just could do it. And the reason I did it was stupid, because people kept saying, don't do it, you go blind. I'm like, well, I want to see if I can do it. But on a more so feeling energy level, I think it comes from, for me, it was, I don't know how to explain it. For me, it was just feeling people's emotions all the time. Mm-hmm. So it happened today. I was at the store and I could just feel that this person was feeling bad, but I didn't know what to say because I'm a stranger. You know, people don't want to talk to strangers about stuff that's going on. And I felt so bad not being able to say anything because I could feel how much pain she was in. And that would happen a lot. I could feel the energy of a room and know when someone was feeling bad, and I would zero in on the person that just wasn't feeling right, and something would always feel off. And if I can muster up enough courage, if that's the word, I would go over and try and talk to them and, warm them up a little bit and then say, hey, are you okay? And that just made me feel a little bit awkward all the time. That's mostly what I can think of as far as like me experiencing energy. Mm-hmm. I would explain it to people all the time that it was more so like I could feel people's auras sometimes. Mm-hmm. Like if people were feeling like, oh, you're not quite right, I don't like you. Mm-hmm. And it would feel like I could, although I physically couldn't see it, I would feel like maybe the red that was like, don't mess with that person or something like that. I would feel it more than see it, which made me kind of see it in my mind.
Okay, yeah.
So I did definitely experience that a lot. So yeah, that's about it for me.
Cool. Yeah, no, that's interesting. I feel like that's way more evidence than I got before I got into all of this. So I think that's pretty cool for you to have gotten A, right? Yeah, okay, so I didn't have anything super specific to start with, so let me think. Okay, I have a really silly memory from when I was younger, and I was in the living room downstairs, and I was just looking at one of my fingers, and I could see a green aura around the top of it, and I tried to show, or it was like a ball. I thought at the time I was like, oh look, I can make a little sphere around my finger. So I tried to show people, but nobody else could see it. So I forgot about those kind of memories and stuff like that. But then one time in the last few years, I was yeah, okay, but one time a couple years ago, I was and I noticed that I could feel it felt like what people truly were, you know what I mean? It didn't feel like, not on some like, ooh, hippie, we're all made of, you know what I mean? Not, it wasn't that. At least I'm not trying to describe it like that. It was more like, I can see this person clearly. I wear glasses, and I often forget to put them on my face. But it was like looking at somebody and they're just in focus. Like everything felt completely in focus. The colors were brighter and shit like that. And I was like, this feels like...
Technicolor.
Is that Technicolor?
Good phrase.
Okay, well, yeah, look, everything looked perfect. And I was like, this feels like what people would describe heaven as, you know what I mean? Everything just looks, even if shit's still a mess, or like, because I was in my friend's basement at the time, and you know, they're a guy, they don't clean shit up, so clothes everywhere, pillows strewn about, all of that, like video game controllers, wires and shit crossing on the floor, but everything looked, it was exactly as it should be. And I wanted to, like, I don't know, I felt like I just wanted to try something. So I put my hand on his foot, and I felt like, it felt like my hand, but not my hand, where his skin started. And I was like, I want to just push. So I did. I have no idea where any of this came from or anything like that. I just was like, I want to try this. So I did. And then I was like, okay, now, it had been like a minute or something like that. I slowly pulled my hand off without, like, and I was trying, in my head, the only thing I was thinking about is I don't want him to notice that I'm pulling my hand off, because I could feel there's a difference between my hand but not my hand, you know what I mean? So I wanted to feel like my hand was still there, so I pulled it off slowly, and I knew I did it. And I was just fucking around. I think I like hopped on my phone and I was listening to music, but then 2 minutes later he's like, whoa, and he finally sat up and he was like, I thought your hands was on me the whole time. Like, I felt really relaxed, and like I guess I felt like I was meditating, and I was like,
great.
Whatever it was whatever it was that I was trying to do, I did it. Had no idea what that was. And then not even a full week, but like a week after that, someone from Unity on campus, her name is Arletha, she messaged me and was like, hey, you won that free Reiki session in the Friends Reception raffle. Did you want to use it? I was like, oh, I completely forgot about that. Sure. And I didn't forget about it. I just didn't know what the fuck Reiki was. I thought that was a lame gift. You know what I mean? I was like, I get a $30 coupon for some woo-woo shit. Even though I'm a Unity kid, like, I did not believe in this kind of stuff a few years ago. So I'm like, you know what? It's free. She extended it out to me. That, you know, can't be a coincidence, especially after whatever this was. So I go see her. She's in, she had an office. I was gonna say store. It's not a store. She had like a spot in Ann Arbor that she was working in. So I went to go see her. She's like, okay, so you don't have to take your clothes off or nothing weird like that. Just fully clothed, lay on the table, and I'll put this blanket over you. And I was like, okay. She's like, yeah, you're gonna relax, so your blood pressure's gonna drop. You just get cold. And I was like, okay, same as massage. That's not that weird. But while I was laying there, I couldn't necessarily feel what she was doing at all. It just, here, I'm gonna show on Khairah because she's here with me. No, I'm gonna show you anything. She was doing like this. It's like slow circles with her hand, but it was weird because I didn't like it. Her whole body was doing that. You know what I mean? And I was like, I could feel it, but I didn't open my eyes the entire time. So I didn't like. I asked her afterward. I was like, "Were you moving your hand?" She was like, "Oh, if I wasn't doing it on purpose. I was just in the flow." And I was like, "That's interesting." Bookmarking that because I want to talk about that later. But afterwards, she told me, I felt like you're an empath. I feel like you're carrying a lot of people's energy, and you know, you probably got to take some time to find out how to center and ground yourself. And I was like, okay, I don't know what any of that means. I had a feeling that I've been an empath just because, I don't know, like not on some Shane Dawson shit, but you know, not on some Shane Dawson shit, but like genuinely, like Khairah said, I could feel people's emotions and shit like that. And I didn't realize that that's exactly what it was because I didn't have anybody around me that was like, oh, cool, yeah, that makes sense or anything. You know what I mean? So I kept it to myself that entire time, and I'm like looking up shit on the internet like a lame person. Like, what does it mean to be an empath? That was my whole like transition from freshman year into college. I forgot to time place this. all of this, me meeting up with Arletha, that all happened in 2018. So I dropped out of college in 2017 in like April. So I had been doing nothing with my life or with my time between now and then all of a sudden this experience was brought up. That's really strange.
And a thing to know is that Kaylyn, she actually told me that I was an empath. Like, while I did have a lot of these experiences and I could talk to my grandfather about it, it wasn't something that he was like, oh yeah, you're an empath. It was just like, oh, okay, because he could do the same thing. So I had somebody to relate to and like to talk to about it. Like, he didn't make me feel weird when I told him like I would see stuff. And that sounds weird, but like sometimes if something bad is happening, I can see like a face that scares the living shit out of me. Sometimes I have stuff that happens like while I'm sleeping, where there was one time I actually felt something actually hit my head, and I literally turned on all the lights and had to go to sleep with all the lights on because I felt that it was coming, and I literally felt my head move. And when I was growing up, out the corner of my eye, I would always see like maybe a t-shirt or something like that, like a shadow going past, and I always turn like, the hell was that? So a lot of that stuff would happen, and then I would have these out-of-body experiences, and I told Kaylyn about it, where if I was laying down, it would feel like I was hovering over my body, like my body it felt heavy, almost, I hate to say like dead, but I wasn't in it. But I could see, like,
you were actually
like projecting. I couldn't feel it, but it was weird.
Yeah.
It's hard to explain.
Astral projecting. Yeah.
But go ahead, you wanted to say something.
Yeah, I think I was saying, okay, that was one of the first experiences I'd ever had with energy. She told me she thought that I was an empath and all that. And I had never said that out loud to anyone before. So that made me cry, that she could feel that. You know what I mean? That right there, more than anything else, made me believe in Reiki. And I was like, I don't know. Because again, I didn't feel it, but I got the impression that whatever she did is what I had done while I was, and did the trick that I tried to do. I could never explain exactly what my brain was trying to do, but I know I was successful. So she told me that she learned how to do Reiki at Irene's Myomasology Institute from a woman named Susan, but she could teach me how to do it. Or Sue. She goes by Sue. Anyway, she could teach me how to do it. I wouldn't have to go to the school. I would just need to go there if I wanted to practice it, like if I wanted to license. And I was like, well, shit, sign me up. You know what I mean? So that was in June, and then July, I took the first 2 Reiki classes. And it was kind of frustrating getting there. Like, that was really testing me as a person, because I think I used all my data for the month, so I had to GPS there, but then my phone died, so I couldn't call her and tell her that I was on the way. I had no idea how to fucking get there, and I just was like, I think I've been there before, let me remember. And I don't remember exactly, like, I know I made a few wrong turns and shit like that. I had to stop at a storage, one of those yellow, orange and purple storage places.
Oh, public storage.
Yes, I had to stop there and ask for directions, but I was so close at that point. She was like, yeah, at that last street, you should have made a right instead of a left. I was like, that's so much closer than I thought it was. You know what I mean? I was doing purely off instinct, and I felt pretty good about that. That was a confirmation that I was supposed to be doing Reiki. And second day, made it there, no problems. But yeah, so that was in July of 2018. I've known how to do Reiki since then. And at September of 2018 is when I started going to massage school, which I graduated from September last year. Yay. Whoop, whoop. Whoop, whoop. Full year. First year, goodness. But yeah, so then I learned how to do Reiki from 2 other people, technically, because Reiki is actually an attunement. Before I get into that, because I have been talking a lot, did you want to chime in?
No, I'm just interested in the conversation.
Yeah, I'm excited. I don't usually talk a lot. I made it. Okay, I'm being weird.
We switched personalities this time.
Just for this. Oh, yeah. Okay, so when I was at Irene's, I went there with the intention of being an energy worker. I'm saying energy worker and not light worker because that's not what I am. Don't call me that, at least not to my face. And same with, don't ever call me a masseuse to my face, and I've told you that.
Masseuse is not a massage therapist.
I'm a licensed massage therapist. Please don't call me a masseuse.
And side note, you've called yourself a light worker before because you called me a light worker.
And then I learned. I grew and evolved. Okay. I would prefer to be called an energy worker because I don't think that in the same way that energy can't be destroyed, it can't truly be good or bad. It can be used for good or bad, but there is no dark or light. It's all just the same shit.
Okay.
So in that sense, we're just energy workers. I'm not a light worker. And then I feel like those people have a very specific, like the people who are true light workers have a very specific purpose in, you know, on being here at a certain time. Their path is to walk the straight and righteous path so that people will actually listen to them, until we got to this point where people are cool with spirituality and they're willing to listen to people who've just gone through the journey like that, not people who've dedicated their lives to being a certain way because they had to trailblaze. Anyway, I have no idea what the fuck I was talking about.
Being an energy worker.
Oh, okay, thank you. So when I got to Irene's, I had only been doing Reiki, like, really on myself. I didn't even really get to practice like that. And this was, mind you, so I was doing this on a normal day-to-day basis now. And I didn't really know what I was doing. I didn't know what to feel for, especially because I was only doing it for myself. So then when I got to school and I was taking mostly energy work classes, I took things like crystal healing. So feeling the aura of a crystal, and all of them have a polar north. So you can feel which end you're supposed to point towards people's heads and shit like that. Or using pendulums or feng shui. And the feng shui lady was cool. She could see people's aura, so she could tell you what color it was. I would have assumed it was a party trick if she had charged people for that. But she was literally like, yeah, if you're wearing the right color clothes, because I need you to be wearing like neutral color clothes in front of a white background so I can actually see it.
I believe her. I want her to see my aura.
I mean, you can sign up for the class. The classes are kind of pricey. I'm whispering to the audience. The classes are kind of pricey if you're not a student. But I would love to go back. So for one of my continuing education classes, will you join me?
Of course. Woo woo.
Yay. You see how I just roped her into that?
She did
on
her
audio.
It's recorded. I can't take it back.
Yeah, it's permanent now.
We have witnesses.
Right? Hopefully. But so what was I saying? Oh, okay. But yeah, so I was doing those kinds of classes, and then I was able to take Reiki with Sue, and that was just very interesting because people tend to not want to be a teacher. There's two different types of Reiki now, so they won't even teach you how to do an attunement if you don't care to ask, and that's a whole separate class now and shit like that. Anyway, so she had a bunch of her level 3s that wanted to become teachers doing some of the attunements with her because the Irene's classes were so large. Whereas my class, my single class with Arlita, the biggest it got was like 3 or 4 people. So it was hugely different. A whole classroom of people. It was still very calm and meditative. Like, she was really good at doing guided meditations. I have 2 that I want to bring up probably at a later episode. I don't know how much we're going to get into today. But
I also have a good one.
Yeah. But so she was really good at doing guided meditations, and I really felt that. And then because there was so much other energy, it was easier at that point because I was doing more meditating and shit overall anyway. It was easier for me to tell what my energy felt like because there was like other things to bounce off of, and like, so, you know, I can just enclose in on myself and it doesn't feel like I'm being the hermit. It just feels like I'm maintaining my boundaries. So I was doing that, and then the last attunement I got from her, I kind of feel like it just sat on top of my hands. I didn't feel it sink in or whatever. And I told her that, and she was like, I think that means you have an affinity for this. And I was like, oh, if, like, because, so when I feel energy, like, physically feel it, it feels like there's something on top of my skin. Because, you know, you never, like, if you're made of a bunch of particles, I just try and focus on the air particles or something like that. Whenever I tell people to try, like, when I first teach them to do energy work, I say, put your hands on the back of your thighs, feel the top of your arms, and, like, feel the skin on the top of your hands, not just feel your hands. For me, that did it instantly. I can feel, like, the weight of the energy on my hands, and if I'm not looking directly at it, I can start to see the aura of it as I'm doing it. And that feels very good. It feels like meditating. Yeah, but I learned how to do that, and that's how I do Reiki. Like, I don't know how else to explain. I know Khairah felt it a little bit, but it doesn't feel like I'm trying. Every time I try really hard, I end up fucking around, and I don't do it the way that I want to do it, or, like, usually I can tell I'm going to do it, like, I'm actually in someone's energy if it feels like my head is kind of outside in a windy day. And then I know that I'm doing the Reiki when I control that wind. And it's not my wind, it's someone else's. That's why it's so complicated. Because when it's my own, like, mental chatter or whatever, I kind of don't notice that. But when it's other people's energy flowing, that feels like it can blow you over. It's wild. But yeah, anyway, point was, when I sit and focus on my hands, like the palms of my hands, it felt at first like nothing happened. And I was like, did it not stick? Like, what's going on? But just now, as I was doing this, I realized that I probably do have an affinity for it. I actually had somebody who I think can see, like, fractal patterns. And I did Reiki on his energy, and it felt so wild. This is shout out to my one and only Twitter friend. The only friend I've ever made on the internet.
Explain what you mean by affinity for.
Affinity, like, okay, I don't know why I have to, like, this is just to not only date myself, but genre myself. I used to read the House of Night series when I was in high school, and I loved it. It was about these vampires whose goddess was Nyx. Keep up here, fellas that know me. But it was about a goddess named Nyx who could turn her children, quote unquote, into vampires. And they would get, like, a crescent moon on their forehead, and some of them had, quote unquote, powers, which was, it's not like I can teleport or, like, you know what I mean? It wasn't dramatic stuff like that until the series needed more money. And at first it was just infinity for the elements. So there was fire, water, earth, air, spirit, and the main character, I think, had something that tied all 5 of them together. So that was really interesting to me back then. I feel like that kind of led me into spiritual work, to be honest, because, like, I'm gonna have to backtrack on all of this, but Khairah and I have this joke that I'm, like, I think she says I'm an earthbender trying to airbend or something like that. Oh, yeah. And because we watched Avatar, yay, go Avatar. But
only the first one, only Avatar.
We don't stand Korra around here.
Well, let me explain why we talked about the earthbending, she's trying to earthbend like an airbender. Because what happened is that we would go outside and have, like, just nightly meditation kind of periods.
Yeah.
Where we just kind of talked, or we just sat outside to enjoy the air. And one time we walked out, it was when I was first starting to learn more about energy work. And because I kept trying to avoid it. Now, Kaylyn will tell you this, that she pulled some cards for me, and every time that she pulled a card, there was a card that kept telling me to go into spiritual work. And I purposely kept avoiding it. And at this point, I can't avoid it at this point.
Yeah.
So I remember walking outside, and we looked up at the moon, and we saw rings around it. But I saw double rings. And when I first saw it, I was like, hey, you see that? And so she was like, yeah. And I was like, okay, so I'm cool. I'm not crazy or anything. And so then I was like, can't believe I see 2 rings around. And she's like, I can only see 1. And so then that led to a little bit of, like, frustration. But she was like, it took me a long time to be able to see it, and you just naturally do that. And I'm like, well, that
frustration on my part, sorry.
Yeah. She wasn't angry at me. No, but it was just like, how are you, who knows nothing about anything, able to see 2 rainbow rings around the moon? And so then I was like, because, and that's one reason why we haven't really, or she hasn't, I'm only at 0.5 right now, is because she doesn't really know how to teach me, because we had 2 different types of bending per se.
Also, I'm not actually a teacher.
Anyway, we have 2 different types of bending per se, so she doesn't know quite yet how to fine-tune mine. And so it was like, okay, I know that you can see all these things, so you may be able to airbend, but as an earthbender, I can't teach you how to airbend. And me, with only having people who know how to airbend teaching me how to do earth bending, there's only so much that they can teach me, because it's not the same. So that's how we got on that.
Yeah, I forgot what I was talking about before that.
Oh, my bad.
No, you're good. I lost it before you started talking.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, I was talking about taking the classes, how it felt on top of my hand. Right, thank you. I love this. Okay. But yeah, so some of the characters, I feel like I was gonna say some of the characters had an affinity for, like, eventually things like electricity, because they were adapting to being modern vampires. And I know that sounds very of the times. It's very high school YA fiction, you know what I mean? That's very YA fiction. But I loved it. Don't hold me. And okay, anyway, so the point was, I brought all that up to say that Khairah actually validated that for me. She has an affinity for seeing things. That's so funny. You have an affinity for seeing things. Mine is for, like, not to be creepy, but, like, touching stuff. You know what I mean?
It's not creepy at all, because when she taught me, or was telling me to do the thing where you put your hand on your thigh and try to feel the top of your skin, I can't do that at all. And when I do that, the most I feel is air. Like, I feel cool air more so than usual, and that's it. I can't feel the layer of my skin, or the layer of the skin of my arm, just by that. She can do that. So,
because my palms are open, baby. If anybody knows what, right? And then my Twitter friend, he saw fractal patterns on my hands when I touched his energy. I forgot to finish that sentence earlier.
Okay.
Yeah, and he because I had my eyes closed, so I didn't see him see that, but he was like, "Wow, that looks really cool," and I was like, "I know it does." Like okay, so that's why I say I can't see stuff. Like, you know how no thought is actually a coincidence or whatever. I take that kind of, like, I don't know what that's called, the theory teaching. I take that kind of seriously. So, like, nothing happens by accident. So sometimes when I'm doing energy work, I can see they're more like the natural pattern of things is, like, really flowy and ugly. Like, if you just threw a bunch of colors of paint on a canvas and they were, like, kind of mixing together, but not really. They're not making another color. They're just blobs of other colors. That's kind of what energy looks like when my eyes are closed. And then me trying to enforce my will on it is when patterns and shit show up. So, like, I can focus on which pattern it is, and I think that might determine how strong whatever it is. Because normally, if I'm just trying to, like, get in contact with someone's energy field, I'm only gonna focus on, like, a hexagon or something like that. Like how they make shields in the DC and the Marvel universe, where it's, like, patterns of hexagons. Yeah, I think of something like that, but it's all purple. And then
nice,
right? Purple is the color of Reiki. I don't know if I said that.
Purple is my favorite color.
She's wearing it right now. Purple is one of my. It's okay. So my second and third favorite color flip flop a lot. So I don't know what place it's at right now, but it's in the top 3. It's not 1, obviously. It's never 1.
Yeah, we understand that. Yeah. Because it's mine.
Sure. You can't own a color.
I'm
dead. See, she's talking like she owns purple. But anyway, if we're doing that, I own green. Let me just throw that out there. I have a monopoly on green.
My last name is Green.
I own you. Alright, I'm sorry. That was funny. I couldn't pass up. But yeah, so all of that it seems like we were talking for a long time, and I'm watching the clock not move that much. All that was to say that I feel energy differently on my hands than I can damn near every other part of my body, and it's because it forces me to, like, open a very specific energy channel, which is why Reiki teaching is called receiving and attunement. So I don't know how to pass along attunements, which is the only reason I can't really teach Khairah, but I have an idea of how that works because I know which channels you're supposed to open. And when I'm really in my zone or whatever, I can just feel energy because energy is everything, and that's the second thing I wanted to talk about, second major thing. But energies and everything. So I was like, if I can do this kind of energy work, I can do multiple kinds. So when I'm really feeling it, I can do like tarot readings. I can do intuitive readings, which is just like, it's kind of like clearing your mind, or I might ask like a bunch of questions in a row, and then if something screams at me, that's the answer. And I've been learning recently that I'm technically what's called clairaudient. I can't hear voices, and I would be uncomfortable doing that where I am right now in my life, if that's even a thing that clairaudient people can do. I don't know anybody else that's like that. But like when I was in Arizona, I left the hotel to go on a walk, and I came back and I went to the wrong door. I didn't know that at first, but I heard this super loud ringing in my left ear, and I was like, that's annoying as hell. And at that point I was like, maybe it's like the security cameras or whatever out there, like something old, you know what I mean, just to make sure. So I went in the door, it was the wrong door, came out, and then I went to the right door. The ringing stopped immediately as soon as I touched the handle, and I was like, huh. And then at that point I look around, there's no cameras, or I mean, like, there's like the new school in that black bubble with the white, everybody knows what those cameras look like. So they had one of those, but it was super high up, and it was not near the doors at all. And I was like, oh, whoa.
There was one particular experience when I was still living with my mom. We both ended up having some type of energy experience at the same time, because we were literally texting each other. She texts faster than I do. I'm very, very old school, so I'd rather call you than text, but I also don't know what to say on the phone. But I type really slow. But we were both, we talked earlier the day, and we was like, hey, it's time to go to bed, whatever. And she texted me and she said, something told me, son, and it was just loud in my ear, so I had to tell you. And I was like, that's interesting, because I just saw a flash of a blue light, like almost like lightning, but it wasn't jagged, it was just straight inside my room as I'm just looking straight. Like it was just there, randomly appeared and just left. And I was like, scared the shit out of me.
Yeah.
But she heard something and I saw something
at the same time. Yeah, man, energy is everywhere. But I've been talking to my new work friend, and she has similar experiences with energy where it seems scary, but I've been telling her every time we talk about it, it's only scary because you don't know what it is. And I feel arrogant in this sometimes when I think about how I would explain this to other people, but I know that I am so protected that whatever can get near me will never hurt me, because it's not allowed to. And I feel that so strongly that when I have experiences like that where like I can't smell very well, so if I catch a whiff of something, or if I feel something tickle the back of my neck or my legs or whatever, and my fans are off, there's nothing, my cat's not even in the room, no wind is blowing, then I know that it's something that has my best interest at heart and it just needs to get my attention. I refuse to be scared of that kind of stuff anymore, because to be honest, when I was being afraid of that kind of stuff, I feel like I missed out on achieving a higher version of myself, because I feel like this is like kind of off topic, but I kind of lost a lot of confidence over the last year or so, and that affected how I do energy work. So like I'm more worried, I'm super worried. I've been this whole year been worried about material stuff, barely focused on spiritual stuff. And it's funny because I feel like that was necessary. It's like I'm not trying to go further spiritually, but the stuff that I already have strong feelings for, I'm just getting either reasons to feel that strongly or more outlets to talk about it. And I can't be mad at that. Like again, I don't feel like I've gotten very far as far as like new stuff this year, but just even having Khairah here, she's a really good sounding board, because yes, I make jokes about her talking a lot, but she also listens really, really well, like better than I know. I don't listen worth shit. That's why, like, listen, because she wanted to get a particular gift from my parents because they had mentioned it once or twice in the middle of the summer. It's fucking December. I would have forgot by now. But she pays attention to that kind of stuff. And that's the point. So when I'm talking, it's not like she's just... and I catch myself doing this because I just don't know what to fucking say. But she's good with words. Gift of gab. She will just have something to say. And I think she channels that sometimes. Anyway, so I'm going to pause it here because there was something I wanted to talk about that I completely fucking forgot at this point. We'll be right back.
All right, and we're back. No.
I did.
Scheduled programming. No. Is that how it goes?
Yeah, we're back to your regular...
Your regular scheduled programming. That shows my age. I'm older than she is. So.
Right, by like 2 years. We're not that old. She's almost a millennial. That's what she said.
I'm a quarter of a century? No.
Oh, okay. 25. You know what's funnier than 24? 25. I'm fucking dead.
Yeah. My brother made that joke on my birthday. But anyway, I thought it was hilarious.
Please, someone make me a cake with that for my 25th birthday. You got 2 years to plan this. Go ahead.
Well, we already established that I would do that.
Okay, but listen, I have to make it.
That's fair.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I would love more than one cake. Now that she exposed that I'm already getting one, bring me more. All right.
Anyway, so we did get completely sidetracked and off topic, but it was necessary. A lot of times, especially with the type of conversation that we're having, you can't just have it just centered and just like straight and narrow. That would make it wouldn't be very natural if it happened that way. And so with that being said, and we're talking specifically about energy again. Energy is in everything. So it is in everything that we do, and everything that we feel, and everything that we experience. So we were kind of on topic. This is my excuse.
Valid.
So we did find some of the things that we wanted to talk about, or that we wanted to talk about to get back on track. And one of the things is how to do Reiki specifically, and how to get in the flow. So since I'm not a Reiki master, I'm only 0.5. Right. We're gonna let the Reiki master tell us.
So one of my favorite things about doing Reiki, it was learning where your chakras are, because I don't think, like, they teach you a little bit about that, but the most important part of an actual Reiki attunement is opening that specific channel and making sure that you're aware of that particular channel and not necessarily the rest of your system, which I think is necessary to be able to do it properly. That being said, though, it opens, everyone knows the everyone that's into this kind of conversation knows about the chakras, at least has seen them at some point. And I'm talking about the top, the very top one called the Crown Chakra. I was going to say the top 3, but it doesn't really involve your third eye like that, but it does involve your heart chakra, which is not in your top 3. That is top 4. I know my math. I'm good at math. It goes from your crown chakra to your heart chakra, and then from your heart chakra it splits out into your hands. And then there are 2 chakra points in your hands that no one talks about that are almost as strong as the rest of them. This could be because of my affinity towards it, but I think that it feels for me stronger than like either my solar plexus or my navel, and I could just be super deficient in those 2. I mean, it's a possibility. I'm not gonna act like that's a bad thing. It just is what it is. I hope. But yeah, so my hands feel just as strong as those 2 points, if not a little stronger, because I have more of an awareness of the strength of those 2. And yeah, so that being said, during the summer, my brother held a protest outside the city of Southfield. What the fuck is that building called?
The Pavilion? Is that what it's called?
The inside area we call the Pavilion. I don't know what the actual, because the office where like the city clerk and shit like that is, which is what I'm just gonna call this from now on. The office where the city clerk building is has a pavilion attached to it, and then the police station's underneath there, and there's just a bunch of shit, and then across the street is the Chipotle, for those of you who've been in the area. So my brother held a protest over there. And while we were out there, I was like, yeah, I like the way the sun feels. Last year when I was sitting in the sun, I keep referencing last year because I had more like new experiences with doing energy work. But again, last year I had just sat in the sun, and I was like, if everything is energy, then so is this heat that I'm feeling. Let me try and use it instead of feeling hot, because that means I'm not doing anything with it, to me. So I tried that, and I thought it worked. So then I was like, I want to try and teach Khairah the same thing, like, and use now as an opportunity to try and teach her Reiki. And she's really good at, like, she doesn't like to do long meditations or like, but she's really good at following along with guided meditations because she's a word person, and she likes to visualize. Like, the point of a guided meditation is to visualize it the way that you need to, and that's her thing. You know what I mean? That's even what makes her such a good editor, because she's in the scene. A shameless plug. Right? Yeah, man, shameless plug. But yeah, so I feel like she's good at those. So I tried to do one of those, and it seemed like at the time that she felt what I was trying to get her to feel, and that made me very excited. And then even though at least she experienced what I wanted her to feel. She didn't feel it per se, but I felt it because I kind of know what I'm doing now. So I felt her channel the energy even if she didn't know she did it. And I was like, maybe I can teach people Reiki by accident, because I still want to learn the proper way to do it, but if I'm doing it so close to right, I kind of want to validate that more than I actually want to learn the right way to do it.
She actually taught me how to ground myself. I don't know if I'm doing it, I probably am not doing it actively on a day-to-day basis, but there was one time we were guinea pigs for her brother's music. He's an artist. And I said, not in a bad way. We like listening to music. I was going to say,
no, up and coming artist from Southfield. Shameless plug part 2. Right. Excellent.
And then, we got to do a shameless plug for you.
I'm actually going to plug his music, his SoundCloud in the link.
Nice.
So, yeah, okay. Shameless plug.
But anyway, we were listening to his, some of his music. He wanted our opinions, which really he doesn't, but we give it anyway. And then, he appreciates it. But anyway.
Eventually.
Yeah. But we were listening, and she just kind of told me, she's like, you have too much energy out in the room. You have to bring it in. And then I did.
Yeah. Because I think my philosophy about teaching people energy, because people try and act like, oh, you gotta have an awareness or an appreciation of it. I don't really think so. I've done Reiki on people's hands that have never heard of this shit, don't believe in it, nothing like that. And they feel what I'm doing because I believe that strongly in what I'm doing. So I'm going to find the best way to make sure that you understand what I'm getting at. And that's why I feel like one day I will make a great Reiki teacher. Hit me up for classes. But
shameless plug.
There we go. Excellent. But so yeah, so for Khairah, she's the first person I've ever tried to teach on like a long-term basis, because I tried it with some of my friends that I met through my ex, and they were already highly spiritual people. One of them has voodoo ancestry, and the other one is just highly elevated. I will say that. So they both had their own experience with that already, so it wasn't that hard to get them to experience what energy felt like or what energy manipulation felt like. With Khairah, it's like starting from square one, and I think that's the best way to do it, because if I feel like if I can get somebody who has a completely different bending style than I do to learn it, then I will be able to teach it to all the bending styles. That's my philosophy on that. But yeah, that goes, I think that part of what you were saying, at least before I kind of went off on a different thing, leads into something else that I wanted to talk about, was one of the centering and grounding techniques that I learned from Arletha, where I feel like I've been talking really fast, but she said, try and picture yourself like an oak tree with these long, thick branches or roots, and you're clinging to the ground, you know what I mean? Nothing is gonna bowl you over, not lightning, not a truck, you know what I mean? Nothing natural is gonna take you out. So imagine that to ground yourself, and sit and like pretend that you have roots growing out your feet and shit like that. Even if you just have to visualize it. Like for Khairah, that's for now going to be more of a visual thing, even though I know she's capable of doing it because I felt it. But yeah, so like for me, that when I feel grounded, it feels like how I keep losing my train of thought right now is because I'm not very grounded. I'm not going to expose myself, but I am not as focused as I could be. And I feel like the only redeeming quality that comes out of that is the fact that I'm remembering what I want to talk about more than I do on a normal basis. So, I'm going to shameless plug my mind. Yes. All right. Back on track, though. So for me, grounding kind of feels like my energy is heavier. And I read this book. I don't know if it was Percy Jackson or just something really like that. No, I think it was the Nicholas Flamel series. I'm so sorry. I just remembered that. That made me very excited. It was the Nicholas Flamel series, and one of the characters was named Ares, and he had been cursed to have his aura harden around him. It formed like a stone statue, and he was alive underneath it because he's a god or whatever, but like his aura was solid. So I try and picture something less severe than that when I imagine grounding myself, where it's like heavy and it's coating me, but that means that it's all on me and it's not just drifting willy-nilly and shit like that. And then as far as centering myself, I had a really hard time with that being an empath, because I didn't understand what exactly I was picking up from other people, or like why I was picking shit up. And what I learned more so is that, you know how if you're carrying a static charge, you can shock other people, and that realistically shouldn't be possible, because like, how can something soft like that conduct electricity in that way? But if you think about the fact that humans can conduct electricity, I am basically conducting your body's electricity when I'm doing Reiki. So to try and separate my boundaries from people, to center myself, I have to find this is why people say vibes and frequencies and shit like that, because it's literal vibrations. So I'm figuring out what vibe I'm on, and I'm gonna like really focus on what energy am I putting out, what energy am I receiving, and how is it different. It's easier in large spaces because usually, let's say, if you're like me and you spend all your time in your room, you really know what you feel like. You may not know that until you go out and you're in somewhere and you're uncomfortable as fuck, but that means that you're feeling energy that's not yours. Just had to throw that out there, right? I just had to throw that out there. So when I'm feeling my own energy and I'm trying to center and ground myself, she says, picture that tree is in the middle of a raging river with the waterfall, and you're right under the waterfall. So not only is the water already moving because it's a river, but it's crashing down over you. But pretend that the tree, even though the roots are solid and in the earth, the tree itself, or like pretend that the water is transparent or like completely invisible, kind of like you can feel it and you're aware of it, but it's not even shaking your leaves. You know what I'm saying? So when I think about that, and then I try and translate that to the electricity that is other people's energy, or what Khairah would describe as feeling like a gust of air when she's doing energy work, that is what you're feeling. You're feeling the current of energy. It's not gonna feel like electricity, because we're not like metal things, you know what I mean? But it feels like a gust of air. So if you pretend that blowing past your tree without disturbing the roots at all, and you really get into feeling what that feels like, that to me is how I learned to center and ground myself.
Nice.
A lot of words to say that.
I learned to ground myself by feeling like I was sucking up a void of like stuff.
Yeah, because she part of the reason why her hand portals or her hand chakras are not so strong is because she's constantly pushing out a lot of energy to the point where her hands are kind of cold. And not like yes, sometimes in a physical sense, but usually it's not really physical. It's more of an energetic thing. And I will talk about that in another episode, and I'll just be Reiki Master Kaylyn for Spotify, because I don't know what else people are listening to this on. But yeah, I'll just expose my Reiki Master knowledge for the internet for free. And all I ask in return, please listen to this for us. And with that, I think we're gonna start wrapping up. Yeah,
you sure you didn't want to talk about the other stuff?
I didn't know if you wanted to talk about it, so I had to write the things down that I wanted to talk about. And the first one that I put down is what Khairah mentioned a couple, like probably about 30 minutes ago, was that she sees this face, and she said when she brought it up, when things are going wrong. In the time that she's been with me, have noticed it's not necessarily when things are going wrong, it's when things are changing. And
same thing.
Not really. Look at her. See, this goes back in the episode where she doesn't like change. Was that the first one?
I think so.
Goodness, we're chugging our way through this shit. But anyway, so I don't think that change is a bad thing, and it's specifically because of when she had the dream. This most recent time was when we were discussing starting our podcast. The time before that was when she had first moved into my house.
It wasn't a dream. It was I wasn't actually asleep. When I see the faces a lot of time, I'm awake, but I'm like, I guess, winding down to go to sleep, and it'll appear, and then it makes me worrisome.
It's when the veil is thinnest. But the first time, it was interesting because I was trying to dream walk back then. This was just earlier this year, like before the pandemic happened, but then there were more people at home and I didn't want to do that because I was in everybody's dreams. Like literally my mom, my brother, my dad didn't tell me that. I was literally in everybody's dreams, and it was getting on my nerves because I wasn't getting restful sleep. Anyway, point of that was I was actually in Khairah's dream that night. This is going to sound like some hippie shit.
No, I was just thinking about that because it was, I don't remember what was going on and what we were talking about. Something was happening. Yeah, I
was going to say, no, think about it, because I want you to talk about it. But, so on my end, I woke up out of nowhere. And I was like, why did it just feel like somebody yelled at me? I checked my phone. I didn't have any text messages. I turned off my music because I thought maybe that was the problem. And then I tried to go back to sleep. Not 2 minutes later, Khairah calls me and is like, hey, can I come in there? I was like, did you call me already? She's like, no. But then she comes in and tells me about this dream.
Yeah, I don't remember. I remember what the dream was about.
Mm-hmm.
The context of outside of the dream is what I'm foggy on.
Then, no, that's fine. Yeah.
So what happened is that we were in a house and it was kind of similar to the house that I grew up in. It was like a mixture of houses that I've been in. I've only been in a few houses in my period of time on this earth, and it was a mixture of some of that. And I remember her standing next to me, and we were talking about something, but there was something off with the person. It was a guy that was standing there, and it was something off about him, and it was funny enough. I remember it was a celebrity face. Can't remember which celebrity face it was, but it was a celebrity face. But then Kaylyn had to go and get something, so she went down the hallway, and she said she would be back. And for some reason, I was getting worried and panicked. And then the face morphed into like what I say is like a scary face. Like it was just really mean and evil looking, and it grabbed me, and it wouldn't let go. And I remember I was yelling like, Kaylyn, like, to try to get somebody to get this thing off me, because it just grabbed me and just kept looking at me. And so then I woke up, kept trying to make myself go back to sleep, but I couldn't. And I was like, well, she's usually up, and if she doesn't answer, then, it's fine. And so I called her, and she immediately picked up, which surprised the hell out of me.
It was like 2 a.m.
Yeah. And so then I came in and talked to her. Needless to say, I didn't go back in my room. I slept in hers. I asked her to sage me just because I wanted to make sure nothing bad was attached to me, which according to Kaylyn it wasn't, but there was a lot of smoke that centered towards the back.
Her heart chakra, the back of her heart chakra, yep.
I don't remember what you said about that, but she said something about because it was centered there was something, I was a bleeding heart, something like that.
Oh, I remember, yeah, because, okay, I said it was when she moved in, but I'm not gonna expose her business. There was a particular reason why she moved in, and I think she had just, at that point, come to terms with not going back, because there had been a lot of, like, we didn't know, I love having her here, and she basically, it feels like she's been here the whole time, but we weren't sure how long she was going to stay here, like, she and I, just based off of the circumstances of what happened, until the end of that weekend when she was like, yeah, I can't go back. I was very happy to hear that personally, given what was going on, but that's a big change for her, and I don't think it was sitting well.
That makes sense, because I had a hard time convincing myself not to go back, because I felt guilty, and because of the conversation that I did have with my mom right after, because after I left, I went back literally the next day, and there has multiple opportunities presented itself where I could have easily slid back into what I guess was comfortable and slip back into just going back.
Yeah, the familiar.
Even now. And it was like, maybe I shouldn't, because me being here specifically wasn't supposed to be as long as it has been. And that made me worried about overstaying my welcome and stuff like that.
It has recently. At the time, that wasn't yet a concern.
It was for me.
Really?
Yeah, I was worried
at the beginning.
That. Yeah. Oh. And I was definitely worried about it. I was definitely worried about being an overburden or anything like that. Luckily, her parents love me. I love them too. And everything has been pretty great. And they're very, very understanding and awesome. And so they have allowed me to stay a little bit longer than planned. But they also understand my situation. But with that being said, that's what was going on. And so I had to, it was that, at that point, I had stood my ground in what I was saying because I contemplated multiple times. Maybe I should go back. It would just be easier for me to go back. It would be easier on everybody if I just went back. It wasn't.
Yeah, and the second time wasn't quite that drastic, but that was the time when she said she saw it while she was still awake, was when I think we had been chit-chatting about having a podcast, but then I was like, you know what, let me just record this conversation. And we were talking about some stupid shit. And
it wasn't stupid.
It didn't make it to the podcast. No. It's because it doesn't have an intro.
We'll get to that eventually.
No, I pray that we don't need to. But yeah, so it was while we were doing that, and I was like, look, we just recorded our first episode. And we even had a separate conversation a little bit after that, I think, about change and why it was like scary and shit like that. And then that same night is when she saw the face again. And then that time I was way less worried because I was like, I think I'm smelling a pattern here. And I think to some extent that makes it easier, at least for me as her friend, to help her deal with, because I know it's not something threatening. Again, to go back to what I was saying earlier, there is nothing harmful ever allowed in my house, let alone my presence. You know what I'm saying? So if something tried to attach itself to her, it would never be successful, just based off the sheer, I'm being a lion here, excuse me for being a cliche Leo, but just off the sheer strength of my aura and the fact that, like we talked about the last episode, I am pure God.
Stop.
I am God. No,
stop.
It's funny, but yeah, so anyway, based off of those facts, those are actual facts, nothing is going to hurt her, and I have to have full confidence in that, and I do.
It's funny that I'm earth and not grounded. I'm sorry, that was random.
No, it doesn't, because I have issues being like, not animated, but like social skills, you know what I mean, to kind of back that up. It's all energy. I would suggest people look into their astrology charts. I don't have too much knowledge about what everything means already and shit like that, but I do know that if my rising sign is how I appear to people and my moon is how I actually am in my head, then my fire sign is kind of like my persona that I'm putting on. So that's probably what I have to learn to actually be. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So yeah, that makes sense that you were born in Earth, so you have to learn how to be
grounded.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway.
What are you pointing at?
The third thing.
That was the third thing, the grounding technique. I did that already.
Oh,
yeah.
It kind of flowed.
I know, I did that on purpose.
Nice.
Look at us. We're getting better. But yeah, that was everything that I had to talk about. We're probably over an hour at this point, but that's okay. We're the talking gals. LOL. I hate that. I'm never gonna say that again.
Well, we could change our description and be like best friends having conversations.
I like that. I was going to put something about energy work because that's what I had intended to talk about, because we were actually, full disclosure, we were going to talk about relationships, but I didn't have enough to say about that, and I get uncomfortable when I don't have enough to talk about for these podcast episodes.
I feel like once you start talking, it'll prompt you into talking about more.
Not really. Like, last week we did an episode about names, and that's something that I have an easier time talking about when it comes up in organic conversation. But like when we're sitting down and I have to think of it in a way that I feel has to be more articulate. This is all me overthinking my own behavior. But when I do that,
her Virgo's coming out.
All of my Virgo. I have a Virgo stellium, for anybody in the audience who knows what that means. It means I have Virgo in more than 3 placements on my chart. It's actually 5.5.
That makes me a little jealous though.
It shouldn't. Listen, okay, we're also getting off topic. I was trying to say goodbye because we're going to keep talking.
Yes, we will.
Yeah, good conversations lead to more good conversations. And with that being said, you should follow me on Instagram. Kaylyn was here _.
And Khairah _is _here. Yeah, I lost my train of thought.
Same, no, but it's okay. I hope you guys like this conversation. If you have anything to add, please share the episode with your friends and shit like that. Spark a conversation. Hit us up for conversation. We had 3 plays on our last video, so that means my parents didn't even listen.
Are you sure?
Positive. I checked, but yeah,
we need more. Said she was excited to listen to it.
Yeah, they did say that, didn't they? Yeah, we had 20 plays on the first one, so let's try and get back to that, fellas. I hope
I gotta talk to some people. I'm coming for y'all.
I was gonna say,
I know some people that listened to it last time, and some people who promised to listen to it, and they didn't. So I'm coming for you.
Let's keep our promises, because I want an audience at some point. I got really excited and made a Discord so that we can talk to people that want to talk about the stuff that we've talked about. That's how you build friendships, right? Having adult friends is hard. Let's hope it be easy. Anyway, so we did our outro already. And I guess all there is to say,
Khairah is here.
Kaylyn was here. And thanks
for
listening. Bye!